Fulfillment is one of those concepts that they're never illogical, but they're things that you know, things that you feel, things that somebody who's happy can never really verbalize it. You can see it in their actions, you can see the way they live their life, and you can also, they themselves know that I'm where I'm supposed to be. This is what I ought to do. Only to realize after banging your head on the wall long enough that it's much easier for you to focus on how you view life instead of what is in life itself. That makes sense. So you switch your focus from, let me find all the things that I need in order to find the perfect recipe for happiness, because it's a futile exercise, it's impossible to attain. The best feedback that I ever really get, the best dopamine hit that I ever get is from seeing somebody else happy, seeing somebody else enjoying their life more. And even from that perspective, your approach to life, the way that you view life also changes. You're like, man, life really is not about me, it's about contributing to others. Why do intelligent people keep making decisions they know are hurting them? Why do we overeat, stay in unhealthy relationships, procrastinate, self-sabotage, or keep repeating patterns we promised we'd stop? In this conversation, we explore a framework that completely changed how we understand human behavior. Instead of asking, what's wrong with me? We learn to ask a different question. What need is this behavior fulfilling? That single shift changes everything.
In the last video we posted, the last conversation we had, we were discussing human behavior. We talked about the 6 human behaviors, and we listed them.
Needs,
human needs, yes. So we talked about human behavior, we talked about the 6 human needs within human behavior. We listed the 6 human behavior and discussed 4 of them. We discussed the need of certainty, followed by the need of uncertainty, and then we discussed the need for significance, followed by the need for love and connection. We talked about it for a long time. We expanded upon that. Now, the next needs we have to discuss today are the need for growth and the need for contribution. That we'll be talking about today. And there is a lot to discuss. The first one is for the need of the ego. And this need are called the need of the spirit. So Ben, when we are talking about this need of the spirit, the first thing I want to discuss is what makes them different from the need of personality.
Yes, and I want the people following us to really not get too caught up on, the labels and names. The first 4 needs that we discussed are really needs that, how can I put it? They tend to encompass the things that the stuff of life, the things that we go through in our personal lives. As we try to fulfill these needs in life, you'll find out that the need for certainty, uncertainty, the need for significance, loving connection, tend to fulfill the stuff of your life, your job, your hobbies, and all these things. And outside of those, as this is the main crux as we continue the discussion on the needs, we're talking about growth and the needs for growth and needs for contribution. How are they different? Yeah. It turns out that as it pertains to the feeling of fulfillment in life, just feeling good about yourself, feeling like your life has meaning, it turns out that these last 2 needs play that role much better, knowing that you are growing. And I suppose maybe it seems obvious to me because I've dealt with these terms for so long, but when we say need for growth as the 5th need in this in our conversation, it's just the need for you, the need that we have to improve, to evolve, to become better versions of ourselves in many different ways. It could be at the gym, it could be in your spiritual life, it could be in your friendships, in your marriages, and all the things that you do. So how do I differentiate them? To answer the question specifically, is it turns out that those last 2 needs tend to do a much better job giving you fulfillment in your life than the first 4. From what I understood, the 2 needs that we're discussing today, the needs of the spirit, so growth and contribution, somebody who focuses on those primarily tends to not feel as though they're missing too much from the first 4. Because in a way, they have a way of fulfilling them indirectly. As you are contributing, as you're growing, you're on this quest of improving in your marriage and being a better father. All of a sudden, it's as though you are putting the needs of other people ahead of yourself. So you're feeling that fulfillment. I'm showing up for my child. I'm showing up for my wife, for my friends. You know, I'm improving. Digging up wells for access to water in remote places that do not have access to water. In doing those, it's less likely that you will get caught up on superficial things, if I can put it that way. On, you know, let me have the best car, let me have the best watch, because you are surrounded and you're occupied with things that make a much bigger difference in people's lives. And you watching this, you can also remember doing something for somebody else and seeing the fulfillment that they got. You know, helping a homeless person, you know, in a way or another, that feeling that you get is just different. It's different than you buying yourself your next pair of shoes. You know, a far more passing, fleeting feeling.
Yeah.
Yes. So they tend to make up for the first four that we discussed. I don't know if you also perceived it that way, but that is really one of the key takeaways that I took.
My knee-jerk reaction is no. I don't perceive it that way. I think they're different. They're different in nature. Because as I was approaching this topic, the idea was that we are looking to see how the needs affect behavior. You know?
Yes.
So how the human need translate to our behaviors, because our behavior is how we interact with the world and what create the result of the life we obtain. You know, so if we behave mostly well, then we get most of the things that we want. In a way, I mean, this is just a long view of the situation, and I was realizing that, for example, understanding how these needs affect our behaviors, is negative or positive behavior, you know. And I remember the example of the smoker, for example.
Yes.
You know, as if you're a smoker and people are trying to break this habit of smoking, which they call it to be a habit, but apparently it's more of an addiction. There is breaking it from the holds it has on you by observing the need it is fulfilling for you. Right? So most people that smoke, you'll see that it fulfills a lot of the primary human needs for them. It gives them a certainty of feeling. After a long day, they know they're going to feel a certain way after they smoke. What I mean is this, for example, somebody who is smoking and you are trying to break this habit, because any habit that we cannot stop doing, that we do even though we don't want to, is simply because it serves a need. It's fulfilling a need.
We're jumping ahead a little bit. I see where you're getting to, but
You
yeah.
know? Are we jumping ahead or are we behind? I think we skipped.
We
something.
skipped, yeah.
Yes.
We've skipped a few key
Yeah.
components. We'll get to that
Yeah.
conclusion as well. Yes.
So, you know, every behavior that we do is because it's something you need, right? And if you're struggling with the need of the egos, leading you into bad behavior, the way out of it is to focusing on the need of the spirit. So I look at it almost like an exit door from being enslaved from the need of the ego, more than it in various ways fulfilling them. Because I don't see how the need for growth and fulfillment, for example, fulfills the need for certainty. You know, I think it makes it maybe moot in some way, but I don't think it covers it. Do you?
The way that I look at it,
Yeah.
so I'll try to make my point as quickly as I can. The first four needs, you know, loving, connection, significance, uncertainty, and certainty. If you think about that, it's really, they tend to be more surface level, at
Yeah.
the surface, affecting what people see of you, the way that you show up to the other people. And the other two needs tend to be more interior. So the first four tend to, and this is a gross generalization, but they tend to be more outward bound, versus the last two needs, growth and contribution, tend to be more inward, because it's absent of your ego, absent of who you are and what you're getting out of people and what people are perceiving of you. It's really about your inner self, like your soul, your spirit, you know, metaphysical concepts. But because of that reason, and we all know, to some degree, as you grow up, you realize that the things that are really valuable are things that are from within. You know, the things, it's as you're seeking,
That is a good
as you're
point.
seeking to improve your life, this fulfillment that you're looking for, this happiness, it doesn't take long for people to start to realize, man, these things are really from within. It's for my peace of mind. If I show up in a place, my mind is at peace, it tends to spill over to other aspects of my life. And in fact, it tends to correct the lens to which I view the world. That all
Yeah.
of a sudden, me, I know I'm picking examples that are almost on the extreme to make a point, but somebody who is so caught up on looking a certain way to protect their reputation, to be the best dressed person or that sort of thing, to seek that significance in that way, all of a sudden, you realize that that part that doesn't really have much impact on your peace, on you feeling good on the inside, that your inner world is good. So,
Yes.
in conclusion, what I would say is the last two needs, growth and contribution. So the need to grow and need to contribute to people's lives around you, to society at large around you. Those just tend to be exactly what the doctor ordered for your inner world. That's really
Yes.
what I mean from that perspective. And then it reshapes everything else. All of a sudden, you don't find yourself being too obsessed with the first four needs because you're living a life that is much more meaningful, much more fulfilling.
Yes. Basically, having a life focused on the first four needs of the ego might be living a life distracted from what fulfills you.
Yes,
Because fulfillment is found really when you're starting to focus on growth and contribution.
that's true.
So now that begs the question, because the point of all this discussion, all this conversation, is to really pinning down what it is, what set of behavior in our life brings fulfillment. The question is, what is fulfillment? For all the people out there, including us and the humans. I remember in college I had a conversation with somebody, and there's a lot of detail to be spared here, but the crux of their struggle was simple. I just want to be happy. And they're doing all sorts of destructive things in the quest of being happy. What they meant is they wanted to be fulfilled. You know, and they were doing a lot of things. I mean, they tried partying, drugs, they tried everything to feel this thing that they couldn't feel. And they couldn't get to it, and they wanted it. And obviously then I didn't know the answer, you know. But I know that this is a problem that hurts a lot of people. It's a problem that affects a good number of humans, because as we are born is this conveyor belt of life that has created stations for us to stop at, depending on our cultures. You are born, immediately are teaching you language, measuring what the people think is important for them, getting easy reading, easy intelligence connective. They put you in school, kindergarten. You are in this conveyor belt for life. And often it is not satisfying. It is not fulfilling, because we do not get the chance to even decide what we want out of life. We don't even get the chance to decide who we are, to have a good observation of what has been put in us, to know exactly which kind of tool we are. Because I believe that human beings are tools. We are all tools, and every tool is designed for a job. You know, I could use if I'm creative enough, I could use a screwdriver to open a bottle. But a bottle opener does a good job, a better job at that. You know. So now I can imagine there is a lot of people out there who are like screwdrivers trying to open bottles. But the conveyor belt of life did not give them a chance to even stop and look inside and find out they were actually screwdrivers. And find out that screwing in screws would give them, they would fit there. They'd be happy there. So they are floating in this vast desert of confusion and wondering, why am I doing the right thing, and never feeling like this is where I belong, this is where I am. Never feeling that fulfillment in my soul. And I wanted to touch a bit on fulfillment. What is it exactly? How do we see it? How do we try to discover it? What are we currently doing to pursue fulfillment that is not correct? And you know, what can we do really to make sure that what we are doing is leading to fulfillment, and why, importantly, is doing these things, which we've already said is focusing on the
Growth and contribution.
contribution, almost short circuits this conveyor belt of life and put you in the path of even discovering who you are. Because I believe it does, after thinking about it. So let the conversation on that, the conversation on fulfillment. If you're to talk about fulfillment to suspecting people like my friend who was doing for fulfillment but thinking it was happiness, what would you say to them?
I would say that most people in life, in fact, just to generalize things, human beings are on this quest for, I'm going to use fulfillment and happiness interchangeably. I'm sure there are nuances there and all this, but for the sake of this conversation, let me just use those interchangeably.
Yes.
People are out there seeking balance, the right amount of everything, and that seems to be a very easy to reach conclusion that fulfillment is there. I have just the right amount of certainty. I have the perfect amount of certainty, perfect amount of uncertainty, perfect amount of love and connection, perfect amount of significance, right? Because those are the things that you can see really for the most part. And people are going through life only to realize that those amounts, those scales in life change from day to day, from season to season, from life to life. So you will always be constantly finding this frustration. To me, somebody who really is not happy in that sense, is not fulfilled in that sense, is too busy trying to get everything in the perfect balance. The right amount of all those first four needs.
Yeah.
And you're doing this forever and ever. And how then do you find fulfillment? Because that one is a surefire way to reach frustration. It may work for a little bit. You may find a sweet spot for you in a particular season, and it only takes a little bit of time until life shifts, reshuffles the cards, and all of a sudden you're found with a different set of circumstances. Now you have to go back again to this exercise or try to balance all those first four needs. So what I would tell somebody is this. Fulfillment is one of those concepts that they're never illogical, but they're things that you know, things that you feel, things that somebody who's happy cannot really verbalize it. You can see it in their actions, you can see the way they live their life, and you can also, they themselves know that I'm where I'm supposed to be. This is what I ought to do. But that's not enough, because it wouldn't satisfy me either, because I'm also somebody who's rather leaning towards practicality. The best that I can offer is to look at nature, and we are part of nature as beings. We are in this symbiotic relationship with nature. I mean, at least I hope everybody is. When you look at nature, you look at all the living things that we have, the trees that we have around us. I'm going to speak about the last two needs that we mentioned, growth and contribution. When a tree does not grow, in fact, that is impossible. In this life experience, you either grow or you die. There is no in between. You never maintain a state of constance.
You grow, contribute, or die.
Yes.
You may stop growing, but you're contributing.
Yes.
As long as you do one of the two.
If a tree or anything else you can think of in life at all, animals may it be, or resources that we have, if they're not growing and or contributing, we find a way to get rid of them. They have to die, they have to go.
Yes. As a matter of fact, often dying is a way for them to contribute.
Yes. So a tree only finds its fulfillment because it's doing what it's supposed to do by growing and contributing fruit, contributing oxygen to our lives, contributing all these things that it does, because it's found its purpose. And again, purpose is another one of those big words. And I believe that we were created by Creator, right? There's a Creator out there, and all of us are just naturally designed for a specific thing or specific things, and you know them, because it's impossible for you to outdo your nature. It may take time for you to find specifically what it is that you want to spend the rest of your life doing, but we all are just built a little bit differently. And part of life is that seeking of that which is perfectly suited to you. You realize, for example, that there are some things that you do with the least amount of effort. Some things that you just naturally do better than others. Those are indicators.
They're clues.
They're clues as to who you are supposed to be, what you are supposed to do. And in that process, you'll find that, man, this thing that I do really well is very useful to people. And how much there aren't too many things as satisfying as pulling somebody up from a hole that they were in. Because you may be somebody who is exceptionally good at budgeting. You just understand money. You know how to convey that information to people so they get out of debt. That is an amazing feeling to see that person that you helped come back around to you, hug you, and tell you, dude, I've been in this cycle of debt for the last 20 years. And I met you, and it took me only 2 years for me to get out of debt. That feeling, man, no amount of money can buy that. And then you are contributing, and you're helping somebody else grow, and you are growing also in the process, because in the process of helping others, you're discovering that, okay, helping in this way doesn't tend to work. You know, maybe I'm doing too much. Maybe I need to cut back. Maybe I need to do more. And you're in that constant cycle of tweaking your approach, perfecting your craft, so to speak. But you are helping others. Fulfillment is found there.
Yes. Well, I feel the need to make an attempt to defining fulfillment, at least from my point of view.
Okay.
You know, I would say fulfillment is a state of satisfaction with life regardless of current circumstance.
Okay.
That's what I would call it. So you achieve a state of satisfaction with life, regardless of what's going on at the time. Things can change, but because of what you're doing or who you are, or you see yourself as, and the things you're putting out there, you have a state of satisfaction with life. And that is a stage that a lot of us are looking for in life. And there is things we do to achieve that state of satisfaction. Is that we do stuff. It's because we're taught to do stuff. It's not our fault. All of us. When we are born, it's like education is important. To our parents, education was very important. Crucial. You know, you go to school, you study, or you're going to have a miserable life. You know, with that, all this effort to give you a chance. If you don't do it, which kind of life are you going to have? You know, and you hear that as a child, so you imprint on it, and you learn that in order for me to have the satisfying life that I want, I need to do stuff. Well, you begin doing stuff. And it takes you in different direction. You do it in different areas of your lives. You say, for me to have a fulfilling life, to be satisfied with life, regarding of circumstance, I need status, I need significance, I need to be rich. So you do the stuff that makes you rich. And you spend some time doing it. And because anything you do with consistency, you improve at, you become good at making money. So you're rich now. But there is something that just appears that you cannot shake. Is that you have not achieved that state of satisfaction with life. And then you check and decide, okay, maybe it's because I've been so focused with being rich. I don't have a family that can give me love that I want. And then you start looking for all sorts of companionship. Eventually, if you put enough energy, you've learned to accomplish things. You learn to put your head down and do what needs to do, make a plan and execute. So eventually you find a partner. You build love, you have children. And then one morning you wake up, you look in your house, everybody's smiling, the joy, and then there is still that cold feeling in your soul. I'm not satisfied with life. What is this? Now, usually at this point, you're at middle age. So a lot of people go on and say, maybe I've married the wrong person. Let me change the person. Now you have a divorce. Then you find a new person and build something with them. Maybe they're going to help me, make me happy. Well, they don't. Some people who don't go further getting affairs or divorces will, okay, maybe I was so focused in my youth, I didn't have enough fun. So let me buy a motorcycle or sports cars. So you do so. And then you find yourself still not satisfied. And there is a key here. The key is we do not look accurately. We don't have an accurate understanding of what provides the fulfillment we seek, because we are actively taught that is the things we obtain or the things we build that's supposed to lead to fulfillment. And this is a conversation about the content of our lives versus the context in which we look at our lives. So the journey of fulfillment is the context rather than the content of life. The filter through which we observe our life. You know, our life holds things in them. And the way we look at our life is the thing that offers us, guides us to a life of fulfillment. And the reason why these ideas of fulfilling the needs of growth and contribution is important is because the vehicle that allows us to look at life in the proper context is growth and contribution. When we focus on growth and contribution, it changes the context through which we look at life. Very simply. And you can find it in the most average example, the most random examples. I even saw it in my life. For example, growing up, there was no such a thing for me as in the morning hot water to shower. I mean, it wasn't a thing. I mean, sometimes when there was electricity and the thing worked, but most time I wake up, I have my cold shower and go to work. And I remember being in the United States, and for a little while there was a catastrophe that happened, catastrophic event. In the place that I live, they had the electrical problem. And we had to spend a few hours in darkness with no electricity. The outrage that everybody had. I remember going to the shower, opening the shower to get a hot shower, and my shower was cold. And I remember being upset about that. And then I realized, wow, my context has changed. I'm looking at this situation differently. With different eyes, in a different position. This is just an average day. As a matter of fact, I have water. This is a great day. Why am I upset about this? Why am I unsatisfied with my life? Because there's no hot water. It's because the context through which I'm looking at life is not one that focuses on growth or contribution. And I remember the changes it brings on you when you are serving others. Thinking, for example, the non-profit. When you think of the kids that have little but are so happy. When you expose yourself to that, it changes you. So, man, I wanted you to maybe give a better, because I don't feel like I've done a good explaining of the idea of context versus content. I wanted to see how you would put that idea out.
Context and content. Our teacher used the analogy of a glass of water. And I think that's really simple, and it can get the message across really quickly, that our lives are full of stuff. Like a glass of water, you have this glass of water that you put stuff in it. You put water in it, and that water is the image of the stuff of life. Your friendships, your jobs, and your problems, your banks, your empty bank account, your full bank account.
Yes.
All the stuff of life is contained in this cup, in this glass. And you own both, the glass and whatever is going into it. Now, you can only see what's in the glass through the glass itself. And the way that you're seeing through it is the context. What context am I seeing life through? Some people, most people, unfortunately, spend their life chasing fulfillment, chasing happiness by trying to control the content, which is much, much harder to do. And an example would be, you become some way, somehow convinced that in order for your life to be fulfilled, you need to have at least $5 million saved in the bank account somewhere. Okay.
Yes.
Because you need to be able to go on any vacation that you want with your kids and your friends, and that's that. And then you also watch movies and hang around people, you realize, man, these people who are playing golf there, they tend to be just much happier. I'm gonna learn how to play golf. So all these that you're doing, trying to find the perfect partner, trying to find the perfect skills to acquire, it's just you stirring the glass, adding things to it, adding the right colors, the right additives, and all these things so that the things look just perfectly right for you. Only to realize after banging your head on the wall long enough that it's much easier for you to focus on how you view life instead of what is in life itself. If that makes sense. So you switch your focus from, let me find all the things that I need in order to find the perfect recipe for happiness, because it's a futile exercise, it's impossible to attain. Instead, you focus on, how do you view the things that you already have, And one way of viewing the things that you already have, and here we're talking about the context, is the fact that I already have things. That is a miracle in and of its own. That is amazing in and of its own. The fact that I'm alive is a wonderful miracle. The fact that I am here, having the privilege of working in America, having met my wife in America, and having gone to school here, and a situation that I'm in where many people would love to be in my place. Not just because I'm in America, but just life in general. You realize that it's always worse for somebody else out there who could benefit from the things that you have, and they would feel immensely blessed if they had the situation that you have. So that is one way of viewing it, and it takes growth. It takes growth for you to get to that point of, wow, man, I really have nothing to complain about. And the next $1 million, if you really think deeply about it, is not going to make a difference. You go on a cool vacation, you eat all this food, but all of it just passes. They're only there for a very brief moment. So as you grow, your lens, the lens through which you view life changes. So the context of life changes naturally.
Yeah.
And as you contribute to people's lives in general, you realize, wow, the best feedback that I ever really get, the best dopamine hit that I ever get is from seeing somebody else happy, seeing somebody else enjoying their life more. And even from that perspective, your approach to life, the way that you view life also changes. You're like, man, life really is not about me, it's about contributing to others. And it's only in that state that I feel the best about myself. I feel like life is worthwhile. I'm far less depressed. In fact, I'm not depressed because I'm valuable. And indirectly, it brings back those 4 needs as well. You become significant to people. People want to get close to you. You're building that connection. And you're adding certainty to people's lives, and all these things just tend to make sense when you focus on keeping the main thing, focusing at the outmost on growth and contribution, and everything else just seems to find their place without you having to wrestle with them much.
So as you're saying that, what I hear is that focusing on growth and contribution leads you to changing the context or situation.
Yes.
Because when you focus on growth and contribution, you have this outlook of gratitude that changes the way you look at life. Focusing on growth and contribution leads to fulfillment. Why? I want to give a deeper aspect. I think this is a personal observation, as I was just doing a mental work of thinking about this subject. I realized that something that we do naturally is that when it's time to just contribute, we naturally lean into our gifts.
Yeah, I agree.
So it is very rare to want to contribute to the world in a way that stresses her out. So we focusing on growth and contribution can lead you to discovering what you are truly meant to do in life. Because the question of contribution is simply a question of an outside outlook. If money was no object, if there was no constraints, what would I be doing? Often it has to do with our gifts and things that we have inside. And this comes when you focus on contribution. How would I add to the world if I did not have the selfish constraints, the constraint that demands my energy to care for myself and my own? How would I add to the world? At the end of the day, you end up finding out when you focus on that you discover something that can actually take care of you, and at the same time put you in a position to discover who you are and what to offer to the world at a high level, which leads to a life that is fulfilled. So, if currently, practically, you're watching this and you feel unfulfilled, obviously, and if you're a hard worker, you've achieved some success, and you've been changing the stuff in your life, as Ben was saying, and you're looking for a procedure to find this state of satisfaction with life regardless of circumstance, my advice will be to take a break, to stop, and to figure out a way you can contribute to the world around you. Selflessly. Don't think about yourself, that how can I add value to the world around me? And I believe that will be the first step that will lead you to changing the context. Because the stuff in your life is the stuff in your life. Some of the stuff in your life are even in there outside of your control. You know, there is disease in life. It's outside of your control. There is sometimes hunger. There is lack of peace. There is war sometimes in certain area. Things that are in your life but are outside of your control completely. And the only way to experience them, to absorb them, to live with them, and still be fulfilled, is to change the filter through which we view them, which is the context to which we absorb them. And this can be done by zeroing in to the driving needs that drive behavior, the needs that will drive the behavior that will lead for fulfillment, which are the needs of the spirit, growth, and contribution. So Ben, I think we've talked enough about the need of the spirit. Now let's have a good look at behavior.
Okay.
At the end of the day, what we want to do is change our behavior so that it serves us. Right? And to do so, we need to classify behavior, define behavior some way. You know? It's an approach that can be done. I mean, and one thing that was done by the person we were learning this from was that he classified behavior into certain categories, a few categories. There are behaviors that are good for us. There's behavior that feel good, behavior that are good for other people. Right? And this led to some classification of behavior.
Yes, so the point as we're bringing things together, as we, in this two-part chat, I hope you've watched the first part, we are coming back around to how are these 6 needs that we've mentioned, that we've studied, how do they even impact behavior? What is the connection? What is the true connection? This framework basically states that every behavior that we engage in is an attempt to fulfill one of the 6 needs that we just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it turns out that if you analyze human behaviors at the surface level, you realize that there really are about four different reasons, quote unquote, why we do certain actions. Because they feel good to us, as Christian just said. They just feel good. You know, you want to eat a bunch of things because they feel good. There is nothing beyond that. They feel good for us. They feel good to us. They're good for us. Exercise could be an example of that. Or they're good for the society. They're good for other people. So usually people that you know, right? If you were to, I don't know, go mow your parents' front yard. They're older, and that's good for them. And finally, also behaviors that are just good in general. So good at large, for the greater good, as our teacher put it. Things such as, you know, seeking peace and love and increasing joy all around your community. So those tend to be really the 4 reasons. And then we can classify the behaviors. And this is really taking us to a place where behaviors are just a way to fulfill one of the needs that we have. So if somebody is engaging in a behavior that is potentially harmful to them, it's not because people just want to hurt themselves. It's because
It's fulfilling
they haven't found a way to fulfill the need that they're seeking to fulfill better than the behavior they're engaging in. It could be addictions of any kind. It could be sabotaging relationships. It could be, I don't know, any sort of behaviors, good or bad, or, you know, those words also have their own meanings, but any sort of behavior is just an attempt, a cry for a strong attempt at fulfilling one of those needs. And if you cannot fulfill that need any other way, that behavior will continue. So this approach is really useful. It really helps me understand addiction a little bit better and what it is and why it even exists. Yeah.
You know, is that crazy? Do you think the majority of people are aware of this?
I certainly wasn't. I certainly wasn't, and this was very empowering to me, and that is the reason why we're sharing it with you.
Yeah, just this understanding that all the behavior I'm engaging in is for purpose to satisfy a need.
Especially the repeated ones, the ones
The
you
repeated
engage
one,
in
yes,
on a regular
repeatedly.
basis. Yes.
This, if whether I want them or not, if for some reason you cannot stop smoking, or doing a drug
Or
that
overeating,
harms you,
yes.
or overeating, for
Yes.
example, it's fulfilling a need,
It is fulfilling a need.
and you need to figure out what need is this and how do I get this need fulfilled in a positive way, in a way that doesn't harm me, you know. And surely enough, if you figure out a way to fulfill this need, subconsciously you are able to let go of the negative behavior.
You're able to shift. You're able to shift the tool that you're using to fulfill that need. The needs have to be fulfilled. We're
Yes,
just
they
built
will
like that.
always be fulfilled,
So
you know.
by changing one behavior to the next, it's not really about discipline, it's not about willpower, it's not about all these things.
Yes.
It's just about finding better ways to fulfill the need that you have.
You know,
that's really what it boils
exactly.
down to.
I mean, love and connection. You're in college and everything, searching for love and connection, sleeping around like a crazy person. And then there's not helping you, it's hurting you, your reputation, maybe putting your health in danger. And then you just shift. You figure out, oh, there is one person I can build a family with. Now I've figured out another way to fulfill my needs for love and connection. All of a sudden, the needs to be a hoe is gone. You know what I mean? Now you have that need is being fulfilled steadily through one stable relationship, for example. And that can happen in many areas.
And that is where the work really is.
Yes.
You know, if somebody is overeating, the person who's really most credited for this framework is actually Tony Robbins. And his book, I believe, is Awaken the Giant Within. I really recommend that book.
Yeah,
Awaken
I read
the
it.
Giant Within.
I read that book a couple of times.
Yes.
No, more than a
And
couple of times, actually.
If you were
A long time
to,
ago.
I'm guessing here a little bit, but I'm not too far from the truth, you know, having listened to Tony Robbins quite a bit. If you go to Tony Robbins and you have an overeating problem, you can be guaranteed he's not going to ask you first and foremost, why are you undisciplined? What is wrong with you? That you cannot just, you know it's wrong for you. You're fat, you're losing weight, you're gaining a whole bunch of weight, and your cardiovascular health is, in the toilet, but here you are continuing to engage in this behavior. He will not have that approach. And in fact, I think far too often, out of love, our parents or friends or our accountability partners will just have that approach that is so brutal and rash, and it lacks empathy and understanding because they don't have this framework of thinking, this framework that we're presenting to you. Asking somebody why are you undisciplined when they're dealing with this issue, they know very well that they're shortening their life and they're hurting themselves. Instead, a better question is, what needs is this behavior fulfilling?
Do you even know?
And then there is a little bit of work that has to be done for you to sit down and figure it out. How do I feel when I overeat? What happens when I overeat? And when I overeat, I tend to be with my friends. So you're feeling that loving connection. You're trying different foods. It's giving you that variety. So each behavior like that, if you think about it long enough, you'll realize that, you know what, from this behavior, I'm getting all these needs met.
Certainty. After a hard day of
Yes.
struggle and fight at work, I know I can return home to my cheesecake.
And I shall feel the same way that I did yesterday.
Yes.
An amazing, and
An important
actually,
need.
in a weird way, I know we put this chasm between the first 4 needs and the second, and that's not really, that we are oversimplifying this because this goes much deeper, obviously. But even something like overeating, somebody may find growth in it or contribution from it. An example would be somebody who's overeating may say to themselves, you know what, I'm trying new diets and I'm failing. And in that process of trying and failing, you can develop a whole YouTube channel off of it or write books off of it. And in your way, that could be kind of twisted. I know I'm reaching a little bit here, but it could be a way for you to perceive that you're growing. Like, okay, you know what? I'm growing, and in fact, I'm becoming an advocate for people who are overweight. That I'm contributing to their lives.
I know.
Yes, so
Yeah, because honestly, I saw a YouTube video, a heartbreaking YouTube video of a young fella who was extremely overweight, and what he did in his YouTube was basically just eat outlandishly.
Yes.
He had millions of followers,
That gives you a lot of
had
significance.
quite a bit of money.
And you're
you know?
contributing to people's lives. You are entertaining them.
And in this video, he was receiving some people are sending him messages that were considered mean in that circle, judgmental in that circle. Message that you're gonna kill yourself. You need to stop this. And eventually, in the video I watched, because I didn't follow him, but I watched him talking about the fact that he had the come to Jesus moment, and he said that, guys, I've been doing this because if I don't do it, then you guys are not going to want to listen to me or be with me. I'm not going to be able to make money to support my life. But I'm realizing that the people are right. The fat shamers are correct. And that my life is in danger. So I'm going to now instead make this channel about a journey of getting my half back.
Yeah.
I wish I could say that the comments were kind and mature about this change. But people prefer to watch him kill himself in public. And that connection and love and connection need was there, significant need was there, certainty was there. And this behavior that he knew for a very long time, as he said, that was killing him, he couldn't let go of it because it was fueling and satisfying all these needs. And thank God that the community of people, a half people, rally around him. Almost ratifying that need of love and connection.
Indeed,
they found them in a different way. And
exactly.
There are many other needs that are still going to need to be fulfilled for him to go through this period of struggle. But it is there.
And I'm glad that you said that word, struggle, because there's work behind this. This is not some magic, waving of a wand and you change. The work really is in that sticking through the pain long enough to train your body, your mind, and your whole being to fulfill a need in a different way. The body has gotten settled into doing, we have to fulfill these needs, all 6 of them in a way or another. Now, you've engaged in a particular destructive behavior for decades, let's say. It's not going to take one conversation episode, you're watching Christian and I, and all of a sudden you change. This can only serve as a trigger, a moment for you to start doing this work. You're like, okay, overeating, over drinking, over anything, is fulfilling certain needs in my life. Now the work is, we're living in an incredible, age right now with information readily available. You don't have to go spend thousands of dollars talking to a therapist. I mean, no, I'm not against therapists, but my point is, even with your limited resources, if you have limited resources, you can do some quick research using AI or other tools out there. Okay, what needs, I would actually use AI. How would I do this if I were you watching me? I'm good to AI. I overeat.
Yes.
I overeat. What needs do people typically find are met in the overeating process? And what are some alternatives? It'll come up with a whole bunch of things. And then find one. Stick with it. For a while there, you will still continue to engage in the old patterns. That's part of the game. It's a lot easier to go through life like this with fellow people around you, people who care about you, will support you. That part I learned the hard way as well. But the work is in that accepting that it'll be painful for a while. As I'm reshaping essentially my mind and my body and my spirit and my soul, so that I can fill my needs in a different way. That work is hard. That work is not easy to stick through it, to, instead of finding variety from food, and it turns out to you that, man, I can find variety from exercising, for example. That is not, saying it like that does not sound good.
Yes. Yeah.
Or
By the way,
way.
as you're going there, let's talk about these classes. The 4 classes, so we can actually start, because start breaking down, because you're very entering the breaking down of them in some way. So I think we should talk about the 4 classes.
Yes.
Okay. There are these 4 classes of behavior. All right. And based on our classification, we have the class 1 behavior. Class 1 behaviors are things that feels good, that are good for you, and that are good for others. Example, love. Love is good for you, it's good for others, and it feels good.
And it's for the greater good. Yeah.
And for the
Those
greater
four,
good.
yeah.
Yes, good for others. Classification 2. Things that don't feel good. It doesn't feel good to do it, but it is good for you, and in a way, it's for the greater good as well. One good example you gave was exercising.
Yeah.
You know, but not for, not forever. I want to share a bit of a personal struggle that I have with this as we go. 3, there are things that are good, they feel good, they are not good for you, and they don't serve the greater good. Example, smoking or drugs. They feel good, but everybody knows they're not good for you, and everybody knows they don't serve a greater good anyway. The 4th class would be the obvious things that don't feel good, are not good for you.
There's
and
no upside at all.
There's no upside at all.
Yes.
Like violence. You know, I mean, I guess if you're a psychopath, violence might feel good. But, you know, for the average person, being angry and violent doesn't feel good. And then it's not good for you and good for nobody. You actually just assaulted other people.
Like stealing and yeah,
You know.
things like that. Yeah.
So the game here is to properly classify your behavior. This behavior that I have, that I'm doing right now, in which class is it? And the goal, if we want to create the consistency that eventually create transformation in character, is to move them from wherever they are to a class 1 behavior. Move them from a behavior, for example, maybe move on for behaviors that feel good and are not good for you or doesn't serve you. And the true secret in life to get to have a life that is satisfying, that is fulfilling and excellent, is becoming very good at moving class 2 behaviors to class 1 behaviors. Like for example, training. So I want to use my example, for example. Currently, I'm very unsatisfied with my physical state. I am overweight. I hate it quite a bit. And the worst part is I know exactly what to do to be in good shape because I've done it many times, you know, but I'm struggling. And the struggle is coming from where? The struggle is coming from, I'm in a situation that makes it so hard for me to move a class 2 behavior that I used to enjoy and love. A class 2 behavior back to class 1. Because what I'm sharing here is the understanding that sometimes circumstances in life will steal that from you. You know, at some point, working out, training enough, actually better than average, more than the average person, was enjoyable for me. I did all sorts of workouts. I was in great shape. I'm boxing. I am lifting. I'm doing all the things I need to do to be in good shape, right? But then you get an injury. Everybody who has ever trained and worked out knows that the first 3 weeks, you have to get past the first 3 weeks to get in the groove, and then by week 6, usually, if you've been doing it for a while, you are back where you're supposed to be. And I'm not saying that this tentative of just going to the gym and lifting, no. I'm talking like painful workouts. When you go there, you say, I'm going to be in pain to lift my cardio, to take care of my muscle fatigue, muscle growth, being sore, whatever exercise you choose, anyways, you do, right? So, having been an athlete most of my life, I did sports in college, high school, you know, there is this level of competitiveness and this level of comparison with the past, right? I know what I've been doing in the past. So now, I found myself in a situation where I have fit issues, I have a bad back, which is limiting a lot of the exercises I'm doing. Now, I enter the cycle. A cycle where I will start the workout, but then I would compare myself to a version of me of the past. And I would push through. You know, I'm used to pain. I know it's going to hurt a little bit, but I'm going to get in shape. And then I would work out. When I'm starting to get to the place where training is now, I look forward to it. It's enjoyable. Where I get the good chemicals that goes to your brain. Guess what? My foot is hurt again. Now I have to go back. sit on the couch for weeks because I keep on hurting this foot consistently. And then I get better, and then the energy it takes to start again is so high. It's very difficult that start. So I have to go back to that start again. And then after that, there is the back issue. You know, currently right now I'm struggling with the back issue. I have a back problem. So obviously with wisdom, I've just learned that my new normal is that this time I will need to start slow. I need to have some humility and start with just walking, for example. Just to start working my way back to my physical shape. And I'm annoyed by that. I have a lot to do, and if I'm going to work significantly, it's going to take a long time. You know, I've even thought about maybe should I get a standing treadmill to put under my desk. Maybe that is an idea I should invest in. I don't know. But the just I like that, the fact that for me it was a ritual. I woke up in the morning, I did my prayer, poof, I went outside and faced myself. That's how I looked at it. I would go and face myself. And after I faced myself, I have the day behind me. And now I keep on failing at facing myself. The damage is more than just physical, it's also psychological, because I'm no longer looking forward to that fight. It's something I used to look forward to. Now I no longer look forward to it. I don't want to go back and to face the heel until the heel is my, you know what. I don't want to, because I know I keep on going there, getting hurt, going back home and having to start over. So basically I'm kept in the hell of the first 3 weeks, constantly. Every time I overcome them, I'm back there, right? So this is a struggle I'm having, moving this class 2 behavior to class 1 again. And there is context to put to that. You know, I have to understand that, okay, I mean, obviously I got hurt, and through this I gained some wisdom. I'm a bit older than I was when I was younger. I'm assuming I was healing faster then, or whatever was going on, and I have to make an adjustment. And I am making that adjustment. So right now I'm mostly healthy, so I can train again. It is painfully slow to have to just do a few body exercises in the basement sometimes, at least in this season, and try to see if I can figure out a schedule for walking, for example. And to me, walking, I didn't look at it as exercise at all, to be honest. So now I have to almost eat some humble pie. You know, you have this identity as an athlete, and now your exercise is working. Very strange thing to go through as a human being. But since I know this, at least I'm trying to apply it, and I'm working myself to get this from a class 2 to a class 1. And for me, it's not just with the pain of working out, it's all the emotional things that are tied around it. And you know what will bring me certainty? My beautiful dishes that I know how to cook all the time. That I like. They bring some certainty. I live a life that is almost uncertain and uncontrolled. I don't have power in the way almost every area of my life is at least in this season. It's appropriate for the season. There are very few things where I can satisfy the needs for certainty. And some of them is my love for the culinary arts, food. So now I'm still eating the way I was eating, but I'm not training. And taking away that, reducing it, limiting it, brings even harder strain psychologically, because it now feels like I'm restrained in all areas of my life completely. There is not an area for respite. And that is a struggle for me. And I've identified it. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what can I add? What can I satisfy this need for variety? Because it's very important for me. I'm a very free person. You know, I'm the kind of guy who would take a trip for myself unplanned. I woke up on Thursday. I was like, oh, I've done this before actually. I woke up on a random day, booked a plane and went to a different city that I've never been to. And then when I reached there, obviously I got the hotel or whatever, stayed there for 2 days and then came back. I've done that before. You know, but these are the things that I cannot allow myself in this moment. So a very big need of mine, the need of variety and uncertainty, is not being satisfied, and seems that it cannot be satisfied in all areas of my life except one. And that one area, for me to enjoy it well, I also need to be exercising like I used to. But now I cannot even exercise like I used to, and it's seeming that the world the logic, if you're asked to ask to the people around me, the gurus, the important people, be disciplined, suffer, sacrifice that as well, and for to get what you're supposed to get. And I must admit, I'm struggling with that part. So I'm having up and downs. I'm having seasons where I can sacrifice people, season where I can do the sacrificing, but very quickly I feel completely restrained and so pressured that I need a release valve. And automatically I just reach for the first release valve I can find. So obviously this is the struggle. It is not easy, but it's necessary. We need to figure out how to identify as many class 2 behavior that we have and do our best to move them to the class 1. In this area for me, my physical health, this is something that it might be the most important battle I have on right now. Just to get back to the place that I want to be physically. And it's involved a lot of things that are physical, that are psychological, and I take full responsibility for who I am. Nobody's fault but myself. It is me. Full responsibility, but I also take full responsibility for correcting it. And I'm working on that, and I will correct it. Anyways, you guys are going to see us here for a long time, so you'll be the judge if I'm correcting it or not. But that is just one aspect of my life. There is other class 2 behaviors that I have that requires to be moved to class 1, because there is nothing better when for me I reach that point where training is beautiful, feels good. I wake up in the morning, puff, I go, I hit it, and I'm out every single day. As a matter of fact, if I don't do it, I feel like something is missing. And I've been for a very long season in my life enjoying that beautiful place where working out was a class 1 behavior. So I know what it feels like. I've been there before, But there are other behavior with that I've never achieved the class 1 classification ever. And I still need to, now that I know this, that I'm aware of it, now I have to do that work. And this goes for you as well. So, guys, this starts to smell like the end of the conversation, really. Unless you have more things to add. But I would say that if the key to success and effectiveness, if you want to be successful and effective, at least by leveraging your behavior, take the time to sit down and classify your behaviors, the behavior that have the most impact to your life. Classify them 1 to 4. Eliminate the 4 behaviors. And how do you eliminate the 4 behaviors? By satisfying the class 4 behavior. By trying to see how you can satisfy the need this class 4 behavior brings to you differently. I would say, for example, if you figure out, for example, you have an anger problem and it brings release, I remember better now I used to he doesn't have an anger problem, by the way, just saying. But we will compete playing FIFA. When he's frustrated, he needs to slap something, right? That brings him release. The people that will bottom up frustration and yell at their wives, right? But Ben to a Whitaker, who is a fluffy ball, that he will slap. And then he zeroes down his back, So you figure out a way to satisfy that need. And you need to figure out a way to satisfy your need, your class 4 needs as soon as possible. Those are emergency. Because they're not hurting you, they're hurting the world as well. And then you go to class 3, figure out the needs that this class 3 behavior are satisfying, and find other ways to satisfy them. And then to your class 2 behaviors, well, the class 2 behaviors, you generally, the need satisfying are good, but is there experience that you need to improve and do everything you can to move them from a class 2 to a class 1? Because that is the secret to effectiveness as a human being. An effective, special human being is a person who has figured out a way to move their class 2 behaviors to class 1 behaviors. Do you have anything to add?
I think I will prolong the conversation unnecessarily. We gave you a lot of information. I think what is actually more worthwhile is just to do an overall recap of all things before we call this good. It's taken us 2 episodes to discuss this really critical aspect of human behavior that we engage in, that others engage in, so you're better off at least understanding why people behave a certain way. So your life is easier, and then your interactions with people is also more fulfilling and more effective.
Yeah.
So we discovered that When we engage in certain behaviors, it's because we want to fulfill one of the 6 needs that we've discussed over the two episodes: certainty, uncertainty, significance, loving connection, growth, contribution. Those 6 needs. So every single behavior we engage in is an attempt to fulfill one of these 6 needs. Okay? And we also established that there is a reason why reason why a behavior exists for the most part. And we broke them in four reasons really. And the last 2 are kind of the same to me, but our teachers taught us 4. So number 1 is you do certain things because they feel good to you. Or you do certain things because they are good for you. The third one could be you do certain things because they're good for others in general. And the last one is because they contribute to the greater good. So each one of your behaviors can fit in one of those umbrellas. Now, based on those umbrellas, we classify the behaviors. Class 1, 2, 3, and 4. Class 1 behaviors are where we aim to be. Because at this level, there's no downside. The behavior is checking all those 4 boxes. It is good for you, it feels good to you, it is good for others, and it's good for community at large. One of those things is love, for example. If you were to decide that, you know what, I'm going to be as loving as I possibly can to everything and everybody that I meet, that is a wonderful class 1 behavior, you know. And class 2 behaviors are behaviors that do not feel good to you, but they're good for others, they're good for you, and they're good for, they serve the greatest good in general. And those, in this category of class 2, exercise finds itself there. Another one that I can also think about is holding your tongue. You know, at times when you just want to, it's just so easy. Somebody jabs you and you want to jab back, you know. But holding your tongue, though it may not feel good, you don't feel vindicated. But holding back and really thinking about your response, making that a habit, that is a wonderful class 2 behavior, because it's good for you, it's good for the person you're interacting with, and it's also for the greatest good in general.
Admitting that you are wrong.
What?
Admit that you are wrong when you are wrong.
Yes, admitting when you're wrong, okay. Yeah, that one is also one of those. And in class 3 behaviors, in general in society, when we think about harmful behaviors, most of them tend to fall here. The addictions of the world, the overeating, the anger, the over-sexual behavior, and all these things tend to be here in class 3. So if you're watching this, if a behavior becomes such an issue to you that it comes that you're aware that this is something that does not belong in my life, chances are it's here in class 3. And the idea behind this whole thing, this whole framework is you are to do the work to move things from class 3 to class 2, and then eventually to class 1. The fourth one exists as well, the fourth category, class 4. This one, I don't know many people who engage in this over a long period. I might argue that there's something that might be off with someone if you are engaging in a behavior that does not have
Feel
any
good?
upside.
Yes.
It doesn't feel good to you. It's not good for you. It's not good for anybody. It does not contribute to the greatest good. But those exist. I would argue those are more passing behaviors.
Yeah.
It's just spur of the moment, something like that. You slapping the waitress because the food was not good and she's giving you attitude from your perspective or something like that. Not only that will take you to jail, which would be pain will teach you in that way. But if you are engaging in class 4 behaviors as well, ultimately the goal is to move from all the classes below 1 and bring them up to 1. And there's the key element in class 1 that we'll talk about in one of our future chats, which is identity. When it becomes your identity.
Yes.
I'm not somebody who works out. I'm a healthy person. And a healthy person just happens to work out.
Yes.
You know. Anyway, that's really the point of these 2 conversations, but I'll turn the floor back to you.
Yes, my beautiful people, that's really the end of the conversation for today. And as always, I use this time to remind you guys that we need your help. We must grow. We see value in this because it's changing us, because we have to prepare for this conversation, and these are conversations about getting better in life in general, being better humans. And then we are consuming it and trying to not be hypocrites and apply this in our own lives. It's changing us, making us better. And we have a sense that a few people, a limited amount of people, will find value in this and will make their life better as well. And Also, some people will find great entertainment because I'm the kind of person who is entertained with great information.
Yes.
And to do that at a higher level, we need to get access to different type of people, different type of settings, and to do so, it only requires success. Now, our success is in your hands. All you need to do is just give us a few likes, comments, watch to the end, things like that. And this will give us a chance to become friends with the YouTube algorithm, and then it's going to help us grow. And once we grow, we can give you better and better and better products. That being said, like, subscribe, we'll be grateful. This was Understanding Human Behavior, and we are B.E.E.F, brothers enjoying endless flavor. We shall see you next time.